In my last video, I walked through the 5 places established epoxy contractors lose book jobs that have nothing to do with their lead volume. Today, I want to go one layer deeper on the one that consistently produces the largest recoverable number when I audit a new client's pipeline. It's quote follow-up, or more specifically, the complete absence of quote follow-up. I'm going to do the math with you in real time today, not hypothetical math, not industry averages pulled from a marketing blog. The actual numbers I see consistently when I pull up established contractors' pipelines for the first time. I want you to follow along and run these numbers on your own business as we go, because by the end of the video, you're going to have a specific dollar figure that represents what this gap is costing you every single month. And I want you to keep that number in your head. We will actually use it at the end of this video. So what does a typical pipeline actually look like? Let me describe a contractor that I work with, and I want you to tell me if this sounds familiar. They're doing real volume. They're getting about 40 inbound leads per month coming from Google, Facebook, and referrals. This is not a struggling operation. It's a business with genuine demand. The phones are ringing, estimates are being scheduled, crew is staying busy. From the outside, it looks like everything is working. Here's what the inside actually looks like. Because there is no automated first touch system responding to leads the moment that they arrive, a significant portion of those 40 leads go cold before anything meaningful even happens. The owner's on a job, the notification sits on his phone for 3 hours, and by the time that the owner calls back, the lead has already talked to a different contractor who actually answered faster. So out of 40 leads, the booking rate to the on-site estimate sits somewhere between 20 to 30%. That is going to be 8 to 12 estimates that actually get scheduled. Let's just call it 10 as a realistic midpoint. So let's recap real quick. 40 leads come in, owner is busy, about 10 estimates actually get booked. And those 10 are not necessarily the best fit jobs. They're just the ones who happen to reach a human before they moved on to the next contractor, to the next quote. Here's the question I want you to sit with right now. What is your booking rate on inbound leads? Meaning, out of every 10 people who reach out to your business, how many actually end up on your calendar for an on-site estimate? Take a moment and think about that number, because most epoxy contractors have never calculated it when I talk to them. They know roughly how many estimates they're running every single week, but they do not know what percentage of leads come in actually make it to the calendar. And they definitely do not know what happens to the ones that don't make it to the calendar. So let's say that the quote does go out. You do get them on the calendar. 40 leads come in, those 10 get booked. So now we have 10 on-site estimates scheduled. Everyone who makes it to an on-site is qualified enough to receive a quote. So all 10 get a proposal sent once you go. And here's where the math gets really painful. Without an automated follow-up system running on every unsold quote, the close rate on sent proposals sits around 25%. So that's 2 to 3 jobs closed from 10 quoted jobs. Let that land for a second. 10 people were interested enough to schedule a time, let you into their home, they walked around with you, and they even received a formal quote from you. And then 7 of them heard nothing after that quote arrived in their inbox. Not a call, not a text, not an email 2 days later asking that questions, nothing. Right? So here's a question I want you to answer honestly about your own business. Out of the last 10 quotes that you sent, how many received a follow-up touch point? A call, a text, an email, anything within 48 hours of that going out? And how many received the second touch point 3 to 5 days later if no response came back? Most epoxy guys that I ask that question to, they go quiet for a moment, because the honest answer is 2 or 3 out of 10, maybe 4 on a good week. And the rest, those quotes went out and they just drifted into silence. And an epoxy job being $3,000 on average in revenue, which is a conservative blended number for the market, accounting for standard flake jobs, maybe those are around 2,500, and a metallic or specialty systems around 3,400, 3,000 to 4,000 on average. 2 or 3 jobs closed from 10 quotes means $6,000 to $9,000 in monthly revenue from 10 genuine opportunities that aren't closing. So there's a lot of money being left on the table from quotes going out. So what does it look like if you actually have that infrastructure behind that? We were just talking about what was normal, right? So let me show you what changes when you actually have a system that works. First, when leads come in, there's an automated first touch within 2 minutes of every single lead coming in, regardless of the time of day or what the owner is doing. That single change immediately separates this operation from every other competitor who calls back 3 hours later. The booking rate moves from 20 to 30% up to 60 to 70% on qualified leads. From the same 40 leads, instead of 10 estimates getting scheduled, you're now booking 24 to 28 qualified on-site visits. just from improving the process, basically. And these are also better fit jobs too, because there was a qualification script running before we actually book anybody, which filters out people that have, the wrong surfaces or price shoppers. And then situations where the decision maker is just not even going to be there, you're going to go and waste your time. The calendar ends up filling with jobs that actually have a real reason to close, right? Now you are on an on-site with a qualified prospect. When you get there, you present the price in person in the room while they're standing next to the floor that they want to have coded, and the problem feels immediate and real. And you handle the objections there instead of promising to send something over later. A contractor who is equipped and trained to close on site closes 50 to 60% of qualified estimates before a single quote ever leaves the building. That is 12 to 17 jobs closed directly on site from 24 to 28 qualified visits. That's a lot more jobs. The remaining 11 to 12 who need more time get a quote sent to them. They don't close on site necessarily. Then they enter an automated follow-up sequence, which runs 5 different text messages and emails and calls over 2 weeks, 14 days, a text the next morning, a call 2 days later, an email at day 5, a check-in at day 9, and then a final reach out at day 13. All of this running automatically without anyone on your team having to remember to do it, without it depending on how busy the week is or whether the owner had time to look at his pipeline that morning or not. The close rate on properly followed up quotes moves from that 25% up to 40%. That's another 4 to 5 jobs from the sequence alone. The total from the same 40 leads is 17 to 21 jobs. Your close rate could be closer to 50%. I have guys that have close rates upwards of 60%. So let me put the two scenarios next to each other just so that way the number is clear. The broken scenario, 40 leads come in, 10 estimates get booked, 10 quotes get sent out, 25% close rate with no follow-up, 2 or 3 jobs closed at $2,500 to $4,000 per job. That's $5,000 to $12,000 in monthly revenue. Now let's look at the optimized scenario. Same 40 leads, but they get 24 to 28 estimates booked. They send out 50 to 60% of those and those close. The remaining quotes that don't close entered into an automated follow-up at a 40% close rate. So that's 17 to 21 closed jobs total. At the same $2,000 to $4,000 per job range, that's $42,000 to $84,000 in monthly revenue. Okay. The gap between those two scenarios is $37,000 to $72,000 per month. And that's not from buying more leads. That's not from hiring more people. That's not from changing your prices or offering different services or anything about how you do the actual work. On a yearly basis, that's almost $500,000, if not more, sitting inside the same lead volume that you already have, just leaking out quietly through slow response, unbooked estimates, and quotes that end up going silent because the system to follow up was just never built. So last month, I actually pulled up a new client's pipeline and started counting, right? 11 leads in a 30-day window where the first inbound contact attempt happened more than 4 hours after the lead came in. 3 of those 11 had no contact attempt at all. The lead arrived, they sat in the system, nobody called ever. This contractor was working really hard, showing up every day, doing excellent work, running a legitimate operation, and sitting at a 22% booking rate on 38 inbound leads because the front end of his business had no infrastructure to catch what was falling through. We installed one automated first touch workflow. A text goes out within 2 minutes of every inbound lead coming in, regardless, again, of what time it comes in or where the owner is. And the lead stopped going cold. The booking rate moved up. Nothing else changed in the first 30 days. Same owner, same crew, same market, same prices. It's just that the pipeline was not broken. It just had between $30,000 and $70,000 worth of holes in it every single month that nobody could really see because the lost revenue does not show up on a report like we had talked about already. It doesn't announce itself. It just quietly does not arrive week after week while the owner works harder trying to figure out why that growth is just feeling harder than it actually should. So remember that number I asked you to keep in mind at the start of the video. I asked you to follow along and calculate your own number as we went through the math. Here's how to do it right now in 60 seconds. Take your average monthly leads, multiply that by your current booking rate, the honest one, not the optimistic booking rate. What is your actual booking rate? That is how many quotes are going out per month. Multiply that by your close rate on sent quotes. That's your current closed jobs number. Now multiply your monthly leads by 65% as the target booking rate. Apply a 45% blended close rate accounting for on-site closing and automated follow-up, and calculate the jobs closed on the optimized scenario. Multiply the difference in the closed jobs by your average ticket. That is your monthly revenue leak from the follow up and booking gap alone. Now, here's the part I want you to sit with before you move on. If you just tried to do that calculation and realize that you do not know your booking rate, if you could not tell me off the top of your head what your percentage of inbound leads becoming scheduled estimates is, I want you to understand what that means. It does not mean that you're not paying attention. It does not mean that you're not working hard. It means that your business is running on feel instead of data. And a business that runs on feel cannot be managed, it can't be optimized, and it cannot grow beyond whatever the owner can personally hold in his head at any given moment. Not knowing your booking rate means that nobody is tracking it. Not knowing your close rate on sent quotes means that nobody is counting the ones that went quiet. Not knowing your average lead volume means that the front door of your business has no measurement system attached to it. And here's the thing about unmeasured systems, they do not stay the same, they drift slowly, quietly, in whatever direction the path of least resistance takes them until the drift becomes expensive enough to notice it. The epoxy contractors who scale consistently are not necessarily smarter or better at the work. They're the ones who are better at one specific thing. They know their numbers. Not because they're naturally analytical or because they love spreadsheets, but because they built a system that captures data automatically so they never have to chase the data down manually. The booking rate is visible. The close rate is visible. The quote follow-up rate is visible. The pipeline stage of every active opportunity is visible. When a number starts moving in the wrong direction, they see it in time to do something about it before the month is even over. If you tried to do the calculation and got a number, even a rough one, that number is probably uncomfortable. It's supposed to be because this situation is, not because the situation is hopeless, it's actually fixable, but because the invisible problems only become fixable when you can see them clearly enough to act on them. And if you could not do the calculation because the numbers don't exist anywhere in your business right now, that's actually the most important finding of this entire video, because the follow-up gap and the booking rate gap are symptoms. Not knowing your numbers is the condition underneath the system. And fixing the symptom without addressing the condition underneath them is how contractors spend years working hard without ever moving the line. So, what should you do next in this situation? Again, I built a 15-question diagnostic spreadsheet essentially for epoxy contractors that maps out exactly where these gaps exist in your specific pipeline. It covers all 5 revenue lead categories, including that speed to lead, estimate, lead qualification, on-site closing, quote follow-up, and that pipeline control. You'll get a category by category score and a specific monthly cost estimate for every gap that gets flagged, right? It takes about 4 minutes. You just answer based on how your business actually runs, not on how you want it to run. And the link is in the description, and I'll pin it in the first comments as well. And if the result makes you want to sit down and talk through what fixing that specific gap in your pipeline would look like, there's a button to book a 30-minute strategy call once you get your results. No pitch, no pressure, no credit cards, no fluff, just a real conversation about your numbers. And yeah, guys, I'll see you in the next one.